It's a good bounce back win for us today. I thought we started the game with the right tone on the defensive end, and so that was that was by design for us to get back.
What was meant to be a quiet, tightly controlled evaluation session quickly turned into something far more dramatic in Durham, North Carolina. Everything appeared routine. The schedule was locked in, the roster confirmed, and reporters were intentionally kept outside the gym, waiting for the usual sanitized updates and rehearsed quotes. However, in the early hours of Saturday morning, well past 2 a.m., unexpected whispers began to spread that the facility lights were still burning and Team USA executives were locked in a tense, unplanned meeting. That gathering wasn't about minor adjustments or casual feedback. According to sources inside the gym, Caitlin Clark didn't simply rejoin the Team USA environment. She completely upended the existing power structure in under 60 minutes. The frantic conversations that followed had nothing to do with lineups or playbooks. They were centered on controlling the fallout. To grasp why this single practice triggered such internal chaos, you have to rewind the last 18 months. The memory of the 2024 Olympic omission still lingers, along with the debates, backlash, and the gold medal that allowed veterans to claim validation without her. For over a year, the establishment pushed the idea that Clark was exceptional, no doubt, but merely one component of a larger system. They argued she needed patience, seasoning, and time to absorb the nuances of international basketball before being trusted with real authority. An argument that suddenly looked far less convincing. What followed next completely caught the establishment off guard. Instead of firing back or feeding the media frenzy, Clark chose silence. There were no emotional interviews, no cryptic social media posts, and no public frustration. In January 2025, she even passed on the flashy unrivaled Throne 3 League, walking away from a massive paycheck to protect her health and double down on serious training. Throughout the entire 2025 WNBA campaign, she transformed herself, stronger, quicker, and far more precise, while guiding the Indiana Fever on an unexpected, deep playoff run that muted nearly every remaining doubter. By the time she stepped into the Durham facility this December, she was no longer the thin, worn-down rookie fresh off a grueling college season. She arrived as a polished professional, deliberately shaping her skill set to attack and expose the exact defensive schemes Team USA depends on. The underlying tension surfaced immediately when uniforms were distributed. In what several insiders describe as a deliberate, almost petty assertion of control by old-school decision-makers, Clark was denied her signature number 22 and handed number 17 instead. To casual observers, that detail may seem meaningless. In elite sports, and especially within the deeply political culture of Team USA basketball, nothing happens by accident. Number 22 is inseparable from her identity, her market power, and the millions in merchandise and fans she has helped bring into the game. Removing it was a quiet message. She wasn't the centerpiece here, just another player expected to fall in line. And yet, when Clark saw that unfamiliar jersey waiting in her locker, she didn't protest, didn't demand changes, and didn't say a word. She didn't run to Instagram with a vague quote or stir up online drama. Clark simply pulled the jersey over her head and moved on. But the people around her felt the change instantly. The smiles vanished, the casual energy disappeared, and her expression hardened into something far more focused. It looked like someone who had just been given all the motivation she needed to make a statement. And that was exactly what unfolded next. Practice opened with routine fundamentals, layup lines, defensive slides, and familiar warm-up sequences. But witnesses say the tension inside the gym was almost suffocating. The building was filled with legends of the game. Sue Bird was there in a leadership and evaluation capacity, observing closely, while Diana Taurasi's presence fueled constant speculation. Despite talk of retirement earlier in 2025, Taurasi was suited up, seemingly there to challenge the rising generation or reassert her role as the cultural gatekeeper of the program. Under the direction of Cheryl Reeve, the coaching staff divided the players into scrimmage units, creating a clear narrative: established veterans versus the new wave. It was framed as a teaching moment, a controlled environment meant to test boundaries, but it wouldn't stay controlled for long. The expectation was simple and familiar. The veteran group would lean on physicality, force rush decisions, create turnovers, and remind the younger players that international basketball is far more unforgiving than the WNBA. It was a formula that had protected the program's pecking order for 2 decades. Veterans impose their will, newcomers absorb the lesson, and the hierarchy remains intact. But Caitlin Clark never played along. The sequence that insiders can't stop talking about revolves around a 37-second stretch early in the second quarter, the exact moment that reportedly triggered the emergency meeting after practice. Just seconds earlier, the veteran unit had scored a tough, bruising basket in the paint, classic Team USA basketball. They were chirping, energized, and already setting their half-court defense, fully expecting Clark to slow the tempo, call a set, and operate within the system. Instead, she caught the inbound and exploded forward. No glance to the sideline. No hesitation. 3 dribbles past half-court. Her defender, an elite all-defensive veteran, backed off by a fraction, respecting the drive. That split second was all she needed. Clark rose up from nearly 30 feet, a shot Cheryl Reeve has long despised and purists label reckless. Before a hand could contest it, the ball snapped through the net, and the gym reportedly fell silent. The gym went completely quiet, but Clark was far from finished. On the very next trip down the floor, the veteran unit once again tried to muscle the ball into the paint. Clark read it instantly, jumped the passing lane, and made the kind of defensive play critics long claimed wasn't in her toolbox. She stole the pass and took off. 2 defenders sprinted back, setting up a 2-on-1 fast break. The textbook decision would have been to absorb contact or dish it off to a trailing teammate. Instead, Clark slammed on the brakes at the 3-point line, sent both defenders flying past her, and drilled another deep jumper with ice-cold precision. The following possession delivered the knockout blow. Clearly rattled, the veterans committed to trapping her the moment she crossed half-court, a pressure tactic that has shut down elite offenses for years. Clark never flinched. She split the double team with a sharp behind-the-back dribble, leaving both defenders tangled together, then stepped back and buried a third straight 3 from the logo. 37 seconds. 9 points. In that brief span, the foundation of Team USA's defensive philosophy, built on structure, hierarchy, and patience, was completely exposed by one player who refused to wait her turn. According to one witness, the reaction inside the gym felt like a funeral. In closed-door runs, there's usually non-stop chatter, trash talk, and bench reactions when someone catches fire. This time there was nothing. No cheers. No taunts. Just shock. According to the leak, Sue Bird was standing on the sideline with a clipboard in her hand, and she didn't react the way anyone expected. There was no applause, no encouragement, no visible emotion at all. Instead, she leaned toward an assistant coach and quietly delivered 4 words that may end up shaping the future of USA basketball. She broke everything. Bird wasn't referring to the scoreboard or a short scoring burst. She was talking about the system itself. She was talking about the long-standing hierarchy. In that brutal 37-second stretch, Clark demonstrated that the traditional slow inside-out approach wasn't just inefficient, it was outdated. Watching it unfold was like seeing a typewriter attempt to compete with a supercomputer. Diana Taurasi's reaction, however, was reportedly even more telling. Known as one of the fiercest competitors the sport has ever seen, Taurasi thrives on confrontation. But this time there was no response run, no demand for the ball. The leak claims she simply checked herself out, signaled for a substitution, walked to the bench, sat down, and stared at the floor. It was a rare moment of realization. After 2 decades of setting the terms and owning the game, watching Clark dismantle a double team from nearly 30 feet seemed to crystallize what everyone else in the gym was already processing. This wasn't a ceremonial passing of the torch. It was a forceful takeover. And that realization explains the emergency meeting that followed. Why call it urgent? Why not wait until morning? Because head coach Cheryl Reeve was suddenly facing a problem she couldn't ignore. At the core of Cheryl Reeve's coaching identity is control. Her philosophy has always centered on structure, discipline, and the belief that the system must outweigh any single individual. She has openly criticized heliocentric offenses, where one star monopolizes the ball, favoring constant movement, shared responsibility, and strict respect for seniority. That framework has defined her success for years. But what unfolded inside that gym exposed a hard truth. In this case, the system itself was the limitation. According to details leaked from the emergency meeting, the staff wasn't just surprised, they were rattled. They realized they could not coach Caitlin Clark the same way they coach everyone else. Forcing her into rigid sets doesn't maximize the team. It actively weakens it. It's like owning a Ferrari and insisting on driving it at school bus speed. That late-night meeting became a moment of reckoning. The playbook, as they know it, has to be rewritten. Now the old guard is staring down an uncomfortable ultimatum. If they attempt to suppress Clark again by limiting her role, cutting her minutes, or sidelining her the way they did during the 2024 Olympic selections, they risk far more than losses on the scoreboard. They risk losing the locker room and the trust of the public. The younger stars at camp, players like Juju Watkins and Hannah Hidalgo, the true next generation, were watching closely. They saw exactly what Clark did. And if USA Basketball tries to humble her now, they could alienate the future of the entire program. Adding even more pressure is the unavoidable business reality looming over all of this. Nike. USA Basketball's financial engine runs through Nike, and Nike's largest women's basketball investment is Caitlin Clark. The company has poured hundreds of millions into her brand, her visibility, and her long-term marketability. Back in 2024, Nike remained mostly silent when Clark was excluded from the Olympic roster, likely choosing not to disrupt a veteran-driven product they had promoted for years. That restraint didn't last. By 2025, WNBA viewership exploded to historic levels, and while the Olympics performed well without Clark, the numbers still couldn't touch the pull she generates on her own. According to industry chatter, senior executives have since delivered a blunt message to USA Basketball leadership. Clark isn't merely part of the plan for the 2026 World Cup. She is the plan. There's no longer a waiting period or a trial phase. She's already proven her value. Right now, she is the economic engine of women's basketball. That reality likely dominated the emergency meeting, forcing uncomfortable discussions about ego, control, and adaptation. Cheryl Reeve, long regarded as the most powerful figure in WNBA coaching circles, is being pushed to evolve around a player whose influence extends beyond the court. Ironically, the jersey number slight only accelerated that shift. Assigning Clark number 17 was meant to shrink her presence. Instead, it unshackled her. It stripped away the weight of branding and expectations and left nothing but pure competition. And when the marketing fades and only the basketball remains, Clark becomes even more dangerous, playing with a chip on her shoulder that reportedly sent a chill through the veteran ranks. It was a level of raw aggression we rarely saw from her in the WNBA, where her focus is usually on elevating teammates and managing the flow of the game. In this closed-door run, Clark wasn't trying to uplift anyone. She was trying to put the opposition away. The leak also highlights a telling exchange between Clark and Cheryl Reeve near the end of practice. Reeve reportedly halted the action to point out a missed defensive rotation, a fair critique given that defense has long been cited as the soft spot in Clark's profile. In the past, a young player would have lowered their head, murmured, "Yes, coach," and moved on. Clark didn't. She held Reeve's gaze, gave a brief nod, and then on the very next possession, orchestrated the offense to attack that same defensive weakness on the other end, resulting in yet another score. It was a wordless response. "I hear you, but I'm seeing something you're not." That moment encapsulated the new reality facing Team USA. The emergency meeting wasn't about salvaging a bad practice. It was about confronting a broken worldview. For 20 years, the program has operated on rigid hierarchy: wait your turn, respect the order, play it the approved way. Clark walked into Durham and proved that the right way is simply too slow. The consequences from this camp are expected to be enormous. A roster shakeup is coming. And the whispers about Diana Taurasi returning for one more World Cup? Those are likely finished, not because she lacks the ability, but because leadership changes when the best player on the floor is operating on a completely different level of the game. For Cheryl Reeve, the countdown has begun. She now faces a defining choice. Will she be remembered as the coach who guided the dawn of the Caitlin Clark era, or the one who lost her job because she couldn't step aside? The 2026 World Cup in Berlin is fast approaching, and the competition is only getting fiercer. France is strong. Australia is formidable. Team USA can no longer afford to bench their most explosive weapon simply because they dislike how she directs the game. The leak from Durham serves as a blunt warning. The transfer of influence isn't a distant 2028 scenario. It already happened quietly at 2 a.m. in a dimly lit gym in North Carolina, while the old guard huddled in a conference room, scrambling to understand how control slipped through their fingers. The jersey may read 17, but everyone in that building knows exactly who the real number 1 is. The attempt to humble her backfired spectacularly. It liberated her. Now, Team USA faces the urgent task of reshaping its identity around the very player they tried to sideline. The emergency is tangible, the panic palpable, and the Caitlin Clark era has officially begun, like it or not. Perhaps the most revealing moment of all came as the practice ended. A ball boy asked Clark to sign his shoes. In a room filled with gold medalists, MVPs, and legends, the kid dashed straight to the player wearing 17. Clark signed without a word, gave no smile, slung her bag over her shoulder, and walked past the conference room where the emergency meeting was just starting. She didn't need to sit in that room. The message had already been made. Clark had already spoken volumes on the court. No words, no interviews, no social media posts required. The message to fans is unmistakable. Forget the jersey numbers, forget the past snubs. What's coming is a Team USA unlike anything we've ever witnessed. Faster, louder, and led by the Iowa-born phenom who refused to wait her turn. For the coaches, that emergency meeting was a crisis. For the rest of the basketball world, it was an alert that the game has irrevocably shifted. The silence in that gym marked the end of the old guard. The sound of the ball swishing from 30 feet out signaled the arrival of the new era. Bold, unapologetic, and unstoppable. What was meant to be a routine closed-door evaluation camp in Durham, North Carolina, quickly turned into a historic moment. The date was set, the roster confirmed, and the media kept at bay, waiting outside for standard press releases and rehearsed sound bites. Yet by 2 a.m. on Saturday, reports surfaced that the gym lights were still blazing and Team USA leadership was locked in an unplanned, high-pressure meeting. Why? Because something unfolded on that court that no one anticipated. Insiders say Caitlin Clark didn't merely return to the roster. She tore apart the program's hierarchy in under an hour. The frantic discussions that followed weren't about plays, rotations, or logistics. They were about damage control. To understand the gravity of this practice, you have to rewind 18 months. Everyone remembers the 2024 Olympic snub, the debates, the heated discourse, and the gold medal that allowed the veterans to claim they didn't need her. Clark's return changed all of that. For the past 18 months, the message from the establishment was clear. Caitlin Clark is undeniably talented, but just one piece of a bigger puzzle. According to the traditionalists, she needed to wait her turn, earn her stripes, and master the nuances of international basketball before being handed true authority. But Clark quietly defied every expectation. She didn't lash out publicly or vent on social media. She even skipped the high-profile unrivaled 3-on-3 league in January 2025, passing up a huge paycheck to focus on her health and training. Throughout the 2025 WNBA season, she transformed stronger, faster, sharper, leading the Indiana Fever deep into the playoffs and silencing nearly every remaining skeptic. By the time she arrived in Durham that December, she was no longer the frail rookie drained from college play. She was a polished professional, meticulously sharpening her skills to exploit the very defenses Team USA depends on. The tension hit immediately when uniforms were distributed. In what insiders describe as a deliberately petty move by the program's old guard, Clark wasn't given her signature number 22 jersey. Instead, she was handed number 17. To casual observers, it might seem trivial, just a number. But in elite sports, especially within the political world of Team USA basketball, nothing is coincidental. Number 22 isn't just a number. It's her brand, the symbol that has sold millions in merchandise and drawn a wave of new fans to the game. Taking her number away was meant as a quiet reminder. She wasn't the star, just another player expected to fit wherever they dictated. But when Clark saw jersey 17 hanging in her locker, she didn't protest, request a trade, or post some cryptic social media message. She simply put it on. Yet everyone in the room immediately sensed a change. The smiles disappeared. The usual happy to be here energy vanished. Clark looked like someone handed a reason to dominate and make a statement. And that's exactly what she did. Practice began with routine drills, layup lines, defensive slides, and standard warm-ups. But the tension in the gym was palpable, thick enough to cut through. as if every person present could feel the energy shift the moment she stepped onto the floor. The gym was packed with legends of the game. Sue Bird, now serving in a management and evaluation role, and Diana Taurasi, whose attendance at the camp had sparked endless speculation, were both present. Despite swirling retirement rumors and the fanfare surrounding early 2025, Taurasi was suited up, reportedly to challenge the next generation, or perhaps to remind everyone that she still held sway over the culture of the program. Under the direction of Cheryl Reeve, the coaching staff divided the players into squads for a scrimmage, clearly setting the stage. Veterans versus the rising stars. The objective seemed obvious: teach the newcomers a lesson, reinforce hierarchy, and show them the toughness required at the international level. The plan likely involved using experience and physicality to overwhelm the younger players, testing both their skill and mental resilience. But what happened next completely flipped expectations, leaving the veterans stunned and rewriting the script for Team USA's future. If you want to see more shocking moments like this and get the inside story on Caitlin Clark and Team USA, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates.